Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Our first story for today is about a strange water park visitor. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Lying about heart problems? Background. I worked at a busy water park similar to Six Flags as a lifeguard/attendant. It was the middle of summer, there were thousands of people in the park, and good camping/setup spots were limited by lunchtime. Situation. While lifeguarding over a fake beach/wave pool, we were periodically required to tell customers on the dining table that the seating was short-term seating only, while they ate their food, etc. Otherwise, people leave their towels and bags over every table and flip out if anyone tries to eat at their table. Most people are cool and clear out after eating, freeing it up for the next customers. These tables are constantly packed when it's busy. One lady has decided that she'll pull 2 tables and 8 chairs together, spread all her stuff around, and start reading a book with a coffee. This is incredibly rude and really angers a lot of customers. Rightly so. So after the waves turn off, 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, I do the walkthrough with the same spiel. Limited seating, appreciated if you could free up once you're finished your meals, etc., etc. I get to this lady who says, "I'm drinking a coffee." I understand, but you can't really set up base here. We keep the dining tables free for people with food to have somewhere to eat. There are plenty of spaces here, and here, and here. Yeah, thanks. About an hour goes by, and I go to the tables again. Same spiel, etc. Get to this lady. "Sorry, ma'am, but I really have to ask you to move on shortly. You've taken up 8 seats and 2 tables for the last hour while only occupying 1. I'm reading a book. Get your manager. If you have a problem, show some initiative." She actually said that. So I call the duty manager over. He has a chat, calms her down, comes back to me and says she claims to have a heart problem and can't walk around much or be in the heat, etc., so just let her be. Not a problem. I'm not going to harass a lady with a heart problem, and the manager is cool with it, so I don't care. Revenge. About 3 hours later, I was rotated on one of the more popular group water slides. The lineup was over an hour. Lo and behold, look who it is. The same lady with some of her friends. She gets to the front of the line, attempts to step into the ride. "Sorry, ma'am, unfortunately I can't let you ride this today." "Why not?" "As it's a thrill ride, people with heart conditions aren't permitted to ride." Not entirely true, they're just not advised to ride. I wasn't going to tell her this, though. "I don't have a heart condition." "I'm sorry if I was misinformed, but I've been notified that you have a heart condition, and so really wouldn't feel comfortable putting you in this situation, risking it, etc. Your friends are fine to go through, though." They all took off, yelling and laughing, etc. "This is BS. I want to speak to your manager." "Certainly." I radioed to the manager, briefly letting him know the situation, and heard the amusement in his voice when he said he'll be around soon. She waited another 30 minutes standing at the top of this line, only to be greeted by, guess who? The same manager she claimed she had a heart condition to. While putting on his incredibly sincere and concerned voice, told her how he couldn't possibly risk putting her in a situation like this, opening them up for court action, etc. She tried pleading to him that she didn't really have a heart condition and how it was something else, etc. And our second story. Laugh at my work when I'm still learning the job and talking crap about me to senior employees? Okay. So I opted to learn the welding trade when I was about 22. I attended the community college, which did have a great program for people who already knew fabrication and construction. I ended up attending 3 semesters and getting certified to several pipe and plate codes, and I felt pretty confident. This was all stick at TIG welding, though, for anyone that knows welding processes. I took a job with a large company that made wastewater treatment equipment and had 2 local shops subcontract the work in addition to their own shop. I worked in the main shop. The way they did things was totally different from the certifications I got. They used wire-fed processes, and the training I went to placed very little emphasis on that. Plus, nothing was code welding either. None of the pipe needed to hold more than 1 psi of air. Long story short, I sucked and took too long, and everyone gave me crap, so I seethed on it for a year. Not all of it was my fault, though. They'd been using a stainless wire that wasn't rated for vertical welding, but nobody knew. Not even the guy who sold us the wire, a jackbutt named Stu. Stu was our shop supply vendor, the guy that sells the gas, wire, safety equipment, and whatnot. He was always smirking at me, and I heard him calling me an idiot and bad welder in the office. Later, we had a stainless pipe job get returned because of leaks, and at first everyone just blamed it on me being the crap welder. Turns out it was the flat/horizontal only wire that was the real problem. My boss was an amazing man, and he knew how difficult vertical welding was with that wire. He just didn't know why. I finally pulled out my code book and started going over all the technical jargon associated with the wire, and I realized that we were using the wrong kind. Finally, some vindication. Nobody else had thought to do that because they wouldn't have known where to start since they didn't have the education I did. I brought this to my boss's attention, and we changed up the wire. Then he put me in charge of ordering all of the welding supplies. When we told Stu the wire was the problem, he said that the wire was fine and OP was just bad at his job. I confronted him with the code book versus the product specifications, and he had nothing to say, but I got to see his big bald head turn bright red. That's not where this story ends, though. After taking charge of the welding supplies, I got very thorough with it, going so far as to compare prices with other vendors, and I learned that our current vendor had been overcharging us for welding wire by quite a bit, which was a big deal. We were fairly certain he was skimming the extra dollars for himself since he worked on commission. I also got quite curt with Stu. The guy knew I was out to get him now. I don't remember how much the mild steel wire was, but the stainless was over $400 for a 35-pound spool. Once I learned this, my heart leapt because I knew all of these subcontract shops used the same vendor. I brought this to my boss's attention, and all 3 of our shops dropped him. I wish I could have seen his face when he realized he lost 3 major accounts at the same time. This made my ordering job much easier as well, since I just started using the welding supply shop down the street, but I still made sure they kept things fair and ethical. Keeping costs low was important to me because I was very loyal to my boss. He was like my work dad. So I worked there for a few more years, and every once in a while Stu would come by, probably hoping that I was gone and he could get the business back. But every time he saw me, he just got back in his truck and left. And our third story. Don't call me ma'am. Okay, sir. Bit of a background. I had your standard terrifying grandma whose fear of reprisal instilled in me a rigid adherence to manners. I always say pardon instead of what or huh, and I always address people I don't know by gender-respecting honorifics. Men are always sir, and a woman I don't know are ma'am. I was raised believing these are signs of respect to people you aren't familiar with. Apparently that's no longer the case, and a lot of women/Karens take being called ma'am as utterly insulting. A lady came in and asked for help with our photo kiosk. This is a tertiary service our company offered, and it was supposed to be entirely customer-operated. This lady comes in and is told the machine is self-serve and immediately began to scream at us, telling us it's our job to do it for her. We do nothing else, while I was serving another couple, and we were good for nothing. Trying to de-escalate the situation, I asked the couple I'm serving to wait and go over to see if I could help. What she wanted to do actually could not be done by our machines, and I explained that to her. Don't give me that. I have had it done here before. Can you get someone who actually knows what they're doing to help me? Ma'am, I do know how to work these machines, and what you're asking can't be done. Her face immediately filled with hatred, and she said in a cutting voice, Don't you dare call me ma'am. I am not a ma'am. Okay, sir, I'm sorry, I said without really thinking. If I thought she was angry before, nothing compared to the torrent of hatred that exploded when I called her sir. She began screaming at me that she was an important customer to the store. I was the worst person she had ever encountered. She would be calling her friends in our head office to get me fired by the end of the day. And all the other things you come to expect from your middle-aged white woman who's been denied her idealized service of us bending over backwards for her. She was yelling so loud the store manager came out because she was worried. Interrupting the lady's diatribe, she asked what had happened. Your associate called me sir. when I asked him not to call me ma'am. The dumbfounded look on my manager's face was priceless. I'm sorry, but what do you want him to call you? At this point, I left and the customer started screaming at my manager about how we were all going to lose our jobs. I went back to the couple I was helping, apologized, and resumed helping them. Eventually, the lady stormed out and my manager called me to her office. I walk in and my manager is sitting with her head down, massaging her temples. I come in and she can only say, "I hate people." And our last story. Sweet, sweet revenge on an identity thief. 25 years ago, my husband had his identity stolen by a close friend. This friend, who I'll call Lil Mikey, racked up tens of thousands of dollars in bills, i.e. car, apartment, utilities, cell phone, before he was caught. It was a nightmare that literally took years to get straightened out. I'd never even met the guy, but hoped that one day I'd get the opportunity to let him know exactly how I felt. Lil Mikey was a real tool. He'd stolen the identities of and ripped off a number of other people too, including his own family members, friends, and the mothers of his several illegitimate children. He'd pulled off insurance scams by faking injuries. He'd stolen money from a bunch of kids on a youth sports team he coached. He did some jail time, moved away, and hadn't been seen in ages. Until last year. A mutual friend was shocked to see Lil Mikey refereeing a high school basketball game and texted a picture to us. It was surprising that he'd come back to a town where he'd screwed over so many people, and even more surprising that he'd found employment in a school district given his felony convictions. Around the same time, another mutual friend saw Lil Mikey on the state's most wanted deadbeats dad website. This was fate. I put on my Nancy Drew hat and got to work. I scoured the photo for clues as to which teams were playing, verified the date of the game, tracked down the organization that provided refs for the game, and wrapped it all up with a big red bow for the State Department of Social and Health Services Most Wanted tip line. There isn't a nice, tidy ending to the story. I never heard back from DSHS, but I did hear last month that some lady had written a letter to Lil Mikey's employer, and he no longer worked there. And as of last week, Lil Mikey is no longer featured on the Most Wanted website. I'd like to believe that DSHS was able to recover back child support for the mothers of his children. I'm a complete stranger to this man, and I'm sure he has no idea how this happened to him. It feels incredibly good to be able to extract a small measure of revenge decades later, especially if this helped other innocent people he harmed. I served it up cold, Lil Mikey. Hope you like it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.